Good morning, YouTube. It is a very cold late March Saturday in North Carolina. The weather outside is gorgeous as far as blue skies and no rain, but the wind is whipping upwards of 40 miles an hour, so it's almost tropical storm type winds today. So unfortunately, I'm back in the garage and I am working on the Mustang, but it's in the dark. I'd prefer to have the garage door open, but it's just incredible. I'm sure you can probably hear the garage door creaking as the wind is hitting it right now. So, plan for today is to get back on the battery relocation. It's been 3 weeks, and I apologize for that, but life has just gotten in the way over the last couple of weeks, moving my niece from Raleigh to Greensboro, and then the land clearing was done, so I posted the video of some tractor work trying to get the land to go. Grass seed has been down. It's 3 weeks into the grass seed. I finally have a little bit growing. So hopefully the rains didn't wash it all to the wood line, but I suspect it did. So today, mount the battery box, build an appropriate battery cable. So I'm going to have a little bit left over of the battery or the 2-aught cable. So I'm going to build an appropriate cable to run to the cutoff switch, because what I was using was inadequate when I was doing a little bit of my testing. Build an appropriate negative. I'm going to go ahead and use the remainder of this. I'll heat shrink it black so inside the box it appears black. Locate a hole to the bottom, locate a hole in the frame, tap it, make sure I have a good ground, and we'll check that. Route my wiring correctly. Right now, if you remember in the last video, we just routed it in order to test to make sure that I did have good power going to the front and power to the amps. Then the final thing we're going to do today is go ahead and run the alternator wiring from the front directly to the battery switch, and then I'll go through this 250 amp breaker here. So a little bit of work, aggravating work, because it's a lot of up and down on and off the floor. Once I get this done, then I will secure all the wiring that we moved for the amplifiers on the inside and put that rear seat delete kit back in, hopefully for the last time. So that should be done. But I need it out of the way so I can run the wire to the alternator so I can have a direct feedback here. So anyhow, without further ado, let's get to work. All right, switch is in. All of the jumpers are on. I've got my battery cables going to come in. This is on post A. I've got electrical power going to post B. So these are my my terminals that will be turned off with the switch. Got each of them jumpered correctly. Move it to the outside of the box, so I have power as is appropriate. Next thing we're going to do is mount the box, run power from each of the electrical systems, and then check everything out. Probably what we'll do is go ahead and set the box in place, get everything run, all the wiring run, and then ensure that the car starts, stereo plays, amp is charging, or the alternator is charging, before we try to mount anything permanently. So that'll be the next steps. All right, so test fitting the box in the car. This is a rough draft of what's to come or what's to be of this box. Very simply, right now we have a negative and a ground going down, straight down to the side. You can't really see it in there, but it's actually going below the liner and going down beneath the trunk, and we're going to find connections down there. And then we've actually got two breakers hooked up right now. We tested the continuity of the switch earlier, made sure that these are working. They are with the on-off switch as of currently. So we've actually got two of these set up right now. Like I said, the two we've got set up right now are the amp and the one going to the front of the car. We do not have the main
battery connection here yet, which is the the bigger 250 amp breaker we have here. So we're getting pretty much a mock cable to get set up right now, because we don't have that permanent cable.
All right, jack leg take number 1. Nothing is secure. Everything is just in place. Josh is getting ready to start. Please ignore the mess. Let's see if it at least starts. We did confirm up front that we have voltage. We've got way too small of a positive battery cable on it at the moment, so it's probably going to struggle. A little bit of struggle, but she starts. That means that we have power running through the 2 breakers that are running. I don't want to turn a song on that YouTube doesn't like. I'll tell you what, turn a song on and I'll just dub a sound over it. You like? Alright, a couple things that I've done up here, right? Like I talked about a little bit earlier, we've got the 2 studs. We ran the large cable to one of the breakers in the back. That is feeding our starter on the factory system. It's also feeding our fuse box on the factory wire. Both of them ran to the battery originally. I did add a 2-post negative terminal here. Everything that was factory, I just went ahead and spliced in because it does create a good ground. Got the battery grounded in the back, so probably not the best thing, but as long as it works, I'm happy with it. The slow start might be that the battery has sat for a couple weeks since its last start. Then again, it may be that tiny 6-gauge wire that I just made a temporary jumper for the battery cable. What I'm going to do is go ahead and use the existing hole that just had a factory grommet in it, close-off grommet. That goes directly through the frame, and there's a hole on the bottom side. So I can pick up a support with the frame versus just sheet metal. So that's going to make the mount a little bit stronger for what it's worth. Not sure that it's necessary, but it's an existing hole. Plus, because this hole is larger diameter than the all threads that are used to mount the box, it gives me the ability to pick up a fixed point on this side, and once I get it in, I have some room in which to be able to move the back side of the box, so I can get it parallel to the trunk opening and perpendicular to the trunk opening and perpendicular to the speaker box, just so it looks correct. So I picked up 2 points. The first point was with the box in the car, but the carpet is up, so my reference to the speaker box is hidden right now. But since I do have this extra ability to move the back side of the box, I remeasured, and I'm going to pick up my hole a little bit forward in the car, which is going to be center line with this hole, and again give me that ability to adjust the box. The gas tank is below this, so I have to make sure that I'm not drilling too far. So I'm going to drill a pilot hole with just a much smaller bit on it, and I've measured, even if I go full length with this drill bit, I'm still about 2 inches away from hitting the gas tank. So I validated that there's nothing under here that I need to worry about. The third thing that I'm going to do, and it's going to be hard to see, is I've located where I need my negative cable to drop through. So there's nothing here. It's just a wide, flat landing underneath. So I'm going to have to drill through this trim panel and then drill through the sheet metal so I can run my negative cable down. Now, once I get underneath, get me here. So that negative cable is going to drop right here. So it's going to come out, and I'm probably going to use some 8L clamps and clamp it. And I'm just going to pick up this already tapped hole see if I can get a better shot there. If I can get this already tapped hole, that is a great ground. Obviously, I need to get in there with a wire brush. I need to make sure that those threads are fantastic, and I'll use an electrical electrical grease on it to keep it from corroding. But this should give me a fantastic ground straight to the frame. So hopefully I don't have to run another cable all the way up to the front. But once I get it cleaned up, I'll get the ohm meter out and I'll check and make sure that we just have a really good ground from this point. But that saves me from drilling another hole in the frame and tapping it and attempting to make that secure. So the cable will come out, I'll clamp it here, and I'll just run it down and pick up that point. So if everything works out well, that should be fairly simple. So now time to drill. I love it when a plan comes together. So we are right here. I'll move it out ever so slightly, and I'll be able to get a grommet in there because it's nice and flat. So I'll have my negative cable run exactly where I want it to be. Little tip, everybody out there should have a set of step bits in different sizes. They just make your life a whole heck of a lot easier. In this case, because I have a very small distance between the top of the gas tank and where I'm drilling, I can step this up about halfway is the size that I need, and my distance is not all that great. When you start getting into say a 3/8 drill bit, they tend to get long, and then you're either taping the bit or doing something else in order to make sure you don't drill too deep. Much rather have it just a little bit of a tight fit. That is absolutely perfect. Plenty of room. I can see to the top of the tank, so that is going to be a good pickup there. So the next thing I'm going to do is see if I can't pick up the same exact hole here. Maybe easier said than done. I'm going to have to measure that and make sure that I put the right size hole in. So I just went ahead and just located everything as I needed. I'm going to go ahead and get the correct size grommet and then calculate what size hole I need in order to put the grommet in place for the negative battery cable. And then I can start mounting the box. All right, went through the assortment of grommets that I have, found the correct size, right? Because I am using a 2/0 cable. It says right there, right? 2/0, there we go. So I got a good tight fit on this grommet, and with most grommet kits, once you figure out which one you need, right, you come up here and the distance D right here is the depth of the hole, or the width of the hole. So that is the inside grooves. Cut any larger than that and your grommet has a very sloppy fit. So D for what I'm looking for is 7/8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to my step bit, all right, and 7/8 is my largest size on this, which makes it easy because now I know that I'm just going down to that particular size in order to match up with the grommet. Makes it easier. If not, what I will typically do is take maybe a silver Sharpie, and I'll just mark the lands in which I'm going to cut to. It just gives me a visual as I'm doing it. It's not so much or so critical on this one because I'm going to the larger size, but if I'm trying to pick up a size that's halfway down. I'll just mark it. This will come off as soon as you start cutting it, but it gives you just another visual without having to stop all the time and clean your bit and try to look for the factory markings. So I'm going to open this hole up to 7/8, put the grommet in, and then we can start lowering that tank and getting the all thread ready for the box. We are in all the way through. Let's see if we can't get this grommet in place here. Beautiful. Now that is going to make for a very clean installation. Bring the cable down, make a turn. I'm going to come in here with a couple of 8L clamps. I'll probably do 1, 2, maybe 3 because I want to make sure that this is really secure. And then at that point, I'll run it straight down and pick up this hole. I could pick up this hole, make it a little shorter, but I don't want to get in the way of anything that's going to move. And this one has this extra frame support that's tack welded onto it. So this is going to make for a much nicer, much cleaner hole. So again, I got to clean those threads up. But that, my friends, is a very nice installation. All right, another quick update. I ended up drilling a second hole as I've started looking at how I was going to vent the battery box. It just made more sense to go ahead and instead of trying to use an existing hole and maybe putting it through with the threaded rod on the box, I just went ahead and made another hole right beside where the negative battery cable is going to go. So one of the things that drives my son Josh crazy when he works with me is one of my first rules anytime we're doing something is clean as you go. You know, a lot of people, and myself included in my younger years, you would just start something and you would just continue going, and at the end of the day you have 300 tools lying around on the floor and you can't find half of them because you're sorting through just a pile of tools, or you're lying in shavings or lying on a dirty floor, whatever it is. I find it much easier now to just go ahead and clean as I work. I'm telling you, it saves a lot of sanity, especially at the end of the day when you go to clean up. It's really helpful. So do yourself a favor, clean as you go. All right, let's do a wrap up underneath, at least for the negative battery cable. Ran it out through the hole, through the grommet that I just showed you that we put in earlier. I've got the vent tube right beside it. This will eventually hang straight as that starts to heat up. Only needed one clamp on the negative to come around and pick up that hole. Real clean installation, good and tight. I do have a very strong ground, no resistance, all the way up through the front of the car. So check that out with the ohm meter, so we're good to go there. Had to drill just a small little pilot hole because I'm into the frame, even though I did use a self-tapping screw, just undersized the hole a pretty fair amount. But I'm out of the way. There's nothing that's going to move back here. There's nothing that we're going to run into problems with. Get better here. There we go. So I've got double jam nuts on this. I am going to swing by the parts store and pick up some nylon locking nuts, and then I'm going to use one of these nuts on the inside of the box at the bottom. They just want you to put, the manufacturer of the box just wants you to put one nut under here and then use the lid in order to kind of clamp it down, or the battery bar that clamps the battery down in order to do it. I'm going to add an extra nut on the inside of the box so these threaded rods stay in place, so when I open it up, they don't to remove the battery, they don't drop. So I'm going to replace these with some nylon locking nuts. I wanted to give you a better shot of what I was talking about. If you look up at the bottom of the trunk, you can see where I've got that stud coming through. I call it an all thread. A lot of people call it threaded rod, whatever. Anyhow, I went ahead and put double jam nuts on the bottom, plus a lock washer, plus Loctite. I do not want to have to go through this again, and I don't want that to come apart. So I will, add torque from the top side in order to pinch it in and to get that lock washer to actually spring in the closed position. Because I had to drop the tank straps, front and back. I've got it supported with a floor jack in order to get enough room to get my hand in there in order to get to that. So now that this is done, I can put the tank back in position and I'm done underneath. All right, good afternoon, YouTube. Just a quick update on what I've been working on this morning. After I got everything run with the switch yesterday and the wiring run, I have run the wire for the alternator this morning. I have also built 2 cables with the exception of the battery terminal ends. So I have new terminal ends that are large enough and rated to go over a 2-aught cable. So I have to get the right size ones. The battery end that came with the relocation kit just was not significant enough, besides the fact that the negative cable came pre-made. So I need to trim these down to size, put the new terminal ends on. Then I have the cable run. I did it along the passenger side. Came up through a factory cutout in the fender well. It goes behind the fender well liner, and then I drilled a 1-inch hole right at the base of the passenger's footwell. Put a grommet in it, like I've done with everything else, and now I have it going down the passenger side. This is probably a little dark, but you can see that it comes in here. I'll get everything tucked in away nicely as I wrap everything up back here. Say hello, amps. I'm getting ready to cover you up for hopefully the last time for a while. Once I get the terminal ends on the battery, I'm probably going to change this end out because it came crimped on with the battery relocation kit. And this is a 3/8 hole, much too large for the alternator stud that's coming out here. I don't know that I'm going to use this 10mm stud here and try to adapt it. I may pop this cover off and go directly to the back and avoid this adapter. I might not have much of a choice. I do have some terminal ends that have a much smaller 1/4-inch opening, so I can use this. I'm just not 100% sure that I want to. So more to come on that. Battery cables are done. Everything is tight. Everything is good to go. Routing is wonderful. I'm happy with it. So now let's fit the top. And after we get the top on, let's hook up the wire to the alternator and then we can close up the inside. We're getting close. final wrap up is done, or the battery, relocation, breaker, switch, everything is done, with the exception of I have this breaker tripped because the wire for the alternator that I was showing you just a second ago, I still do not have it connected. Matter of fact, I just have it kind of sitting here loosely, and the reason is I'm not happy with what I have in stock as far as terminal ends with the size of stud. So I have one that has a 3/8 stud, but this has, you know, maybe a 1/4 inch or 3/16. Anyhow, it's a little bit too large. So I've gone ahead and ordered some other terminal ends, and when that comes in, I'll crimp on the correct one. I'll solder it in to make sure I have a really strong connection, and then I can go straight to the top of the alternator. Going to the back of the alternator just was not a good option the more I messed with it. So everything is back together inside of the car for what it's worth. I don't know if you can see everything. I have the rear seat delete back in. I did mess around with the amps a little bit, got them set to where I want them to play. It sounds good. So anyhow, so much more work than I ever expected it to be. I'm happy I did it. I'm happy I did this in the winter when I was spending the time inside anyway. Yeah, I think it's going to be value added for no other reason other than to say we did it.
All right, a little update. What's to come, what's new, what's next, what we've done, what we haven't done, what we're not going to do, what we are going to do, so forth. What you've seen recently is major interior work, major battery relocation work, and you have seen the brakes, but the brakes should be completely wrapped up now. We have no more content on the brakes really coming at this given moment. The next big step is going to be this transmission build, or the transmission put in, or making it correct. I'll say it that way. Flywheel clutch will be here next week or so, so look forward to that. Look forward to getting this thing back where it needs to be. This transmission has given us so many issues, and we're just gonna, you know, take it all apart, redo that flywheel and clutch, and we're gonna see what we can do with these two transmissions and what the best plan of action is. Coming up after that we should be done with most big interior stuff. So I do want to put the seats in. The seats will be coming hopefully the next 2 videos, so that's super exciting. And then interior should really be wrapped up. Beyond that, there's kind of the endless possibility. We're moving back towards the need for the suspension parts, but that's going to be a big setback to budget. So we're going to need to kind of figure out let's put it this way, our priorities are going to depend on what happens with this transmission and whether everything works well, or if we're going to have to reevaluate some stuff. And honestly, everything should be fine. So suspension maybe in the next couple months, and then this car really will have those big points filed down and really should be pretty good to go. Obviously, there's going to be some cleanup and some small parts that we're going to need to do here and there. But man, she's come a long way in these last few weeks, and I appreciate everyone watching our progress. And it's been awesome, and it's just going to get better from here. See you guys.